back to my channel. I'm Ronzoni. This is Ronzoni Beats and Life. Tonight we're going to do a tutorial on Koala Sampler sequencing. You want to make a song, you have to arrange your sequences and play them. It's not always as easy as it seems, and I want to share a few tips that I've learned along the way. Okay, I'm going to go through some basic sequencing stuff first. When you start working on a song, you have some sequences lined up and you want to arrange them. There's some problems you might encounter. First is when you have a 1-bar sequence and then you're trying to go to a 2-bar sequence. The 2-bar sequence, you might want to start it in the beginning of that 2-bar sequence. But when you're coming from a 1-bar sequence, you can't get to the beginning of a 2-bar sequence. You can only get to the second bar of a 2-bar sequence. For example, the playhead always sticks within the first bar of the second bar sequence when you're coming from a 1-bar sequence. If the first one's a 2-bar sequence and you're going to a 4-bar sequence, it's the same concept. If you go from a 2-bar sequence to a 2-bar sequence, it's going to be always lined up. It just sticks with, it doesn't go to the beginning of sequences. So that could be confusing for beginners, and it poses a challenge when you're trying to arrange your song. You want to play the beginning of the 2-bar sequence that you set up. So an easy workaround for that is just to, add to end, right? Well, that's all messed up. Easiest way to do that is to add to end. And now you have your first part, and then it's going to play the second part after the first part. So that's easy. But then now you have the same problem with your 3-bar sequence when you're trying to mix it with another sequence. So it doesn't always solve the problem. My suggestion is have all 1-bar sequences and switch between them, and learn the sequences and then play them back. And it could be challenging to do that and record your song, and you can mess up, and it can take a while. So you can also just lay out all your sequences in one monolithic sequence, but I would do that by taking individual sequences and not like deleting the individual sequences, because you can mess up with your monolithic sequence and you can't change it really easily. Okay, so that's tip 1. Next tip is kind of a pro tip. Let's say you have this 2-bar sequence, you make it a 4-bar sequence by doubling it up, and then you go back to a 2-bar sequence. And the way Koala Sampler works is it doesn't truncate those bars. When you hit that minus button, it doesn't truncate. You can still see them. And that would be fine, but sometimes there's weird behavior and you need it to be a 2-bar sequence. So here I have this 1-bar sequence, and I'm going to try my add to end that I just did before. And now it's all out of order. You can hear this sequence that I added to the end of the other one is playing before the one, it's backwards. So, I mean, that's a bug probably, but you can fix it too. When you mix sequences, they truncate. So right now we have extra bars, 2 bars, but if we have a 2-bar loop here, well, if you duplicate, nothing happens. That's the same. But if you mix, then it truncates. So I'm going to drop a note on this one here. Doesn't matter what. And then I'm going to, remember what it is. And I'm going to mix this. I'm going to clear my note. And now it's the same sequence with the note cleared. And it's also just a 2-bar sequence. And now I can do what I want, which is add to end. Kind of an obscure pro tip, like I said, but it could come in handy. Next tip is clearing things. This is a feature that's been in Koala app for a bit. I think people know about it now, and I covered it in my last tutorial. But let's say you have this sequence with chops and drums, and you just want the drums. So you can clear out the samples or whatever you want. You want just the samples, you move the drums. You hit clear, hit it again. Don't hit that by accident. And now you have just drums. Oh, I missed one. I missed two. Yeah, so now you have just drums. Okay, that leads us into the next tip, which is updating your beat. So let's say with a DAW you have a pattern, and that pattern is applied all over your song, and then you want to add some, it's a drum pattern, you want to add some shakers. You say you have 10 sequences in Koala. You're going to update each sequence with that to add that shaker. Easier way is to extract the drums like I just did, and then add your shaker, and then mix that pattern in, that sequence in with the other existing sequences. Because mixing is additive. It always just adds things. If things already exist, they don't go, nothing happens. It just ignores that. So I'm going to add shakers to this. I already have shakers. Okay, watch out for that bug. You ever see your play state? See the, everyone look at the record button. It's in like descended state. I'm gonna move it now. I don't know, but you get this long line, and that happens like once every 20 minutes to me. It's so annoying. I'm gonna add some shakers to this beat. We got shakers in there, and now I'll mix it with the other two beats that don't have shakers. Mix. This one's 2 bars, so I have to double it and mix. So now I've updated my drum pattern on many sequences. Of course, this applies to samples as well, or just, you know, you can just add things. You can have an empty sequence and you can add one thing to it. Chord. Yeah. And then you can go mix that into your, you know, to all your tracks. Okay, that's it for the tutorial tonight. I hope you learned something. If you want to see a specific topic covered, please comment below. Let me know. I'd love to do a video. And I'll catch you next time.